The Freemasons are the largest secret society in the world, and their practices go back 1,000 years, but because of their nature, not many people know about them. They claim to be a group of men who stand together to make the world better, but is that really true? Well, today I spoke with the daughter of a high-level Freemason, and she revealed what his life actually looked like.
So I want to say when he started that first early shop, it wasn't as successful. And I think it was again because he wasn't doing like those big, powerful spells. And I remember him having to shut that shop down. Then he opened up another shop, and then this is when he started taking these trips. When my mom said it, he was caught up with these funny people. He was taking trips to Miami, he was taking trips to Las Vegas, and I'll never forget. Now, this was when he lived in this other house where he had gotten this special stature like built in his altar room, and he went all out. Like now, he had gone all out. He had a specific room dedicated. It had altars. It had this big thing that I want to say took time to be drawn out, like mathematically and geometrically it had to be perfect, and he had a specific artist and carpenter to come and build it. And then I remember too just him having all these books and all these meetings with these different people. And so the reason I know that that's what it was because at this time I'm about to be into my early teens, but my brothers are older, and my brothers would say it like they actually were forced. I wouldn't know if it would be forced, but they were to accompany my dad in some of these trips. Where even after my mom found out what was going on these trips, he had her led to believe he was just going to go out there and have some fun and probably get some merchandise or something. But my older brothers described it. They were like, no, he was literally meeting with other Masons that was a part of lodges that knew spells. They were recruiting at that time, and he was desperate. You know, he was purchasing things like the Book of the Dead, learning about really dark spells and how to make those things happen. Because now that's a whole different game. And at these lodges, while he was having these meetings, my brothers would be there, and they described it to me because I never visited any of the lodges with him. But when he came back, I can tell that he was different. That my dad was different. And now all of a sudden, we started having money again. Like money started coming in, but he didn't work. All he did was this. And yeah, it was definitely that, dealing with the Masons. And because he had already some background, they had recruited him at a certain level, and then he caught on really quickly because he had already been dabbling in a lot of it. So then after that he kind of was halted up to different ones, and that was why he was allowed to go to the different meetings in other places. And every time he came back, he always came back with money. He always came back with a new either business idea or some kind of opportunity that would increase whatever he had going on. But I definitely know that it wasn't of nothing good because again dark things started to happen to all of us and within the family and to my siblings.
Right. And there's a lot of people that think that Freemasonry is not, there's nothing wrong with it. There's people that think you can be a Christian and a Freemason. There's probably going to be Freemasons that watch this and be like, that's not what we do at all. Um, but you explained that he had already been dabbling in witchcraft. And for the people that either are Freemasons or believe that Freemasonry has nothing to do with witchcraft or any of that, well, it's probably because you've never seen these higher levels because it's a secretive society. It's a secret society. That's the point of it. But you mentioned that there was a lot of darkness that came into it, which I think is important. And it's another kind of piece of evidence that, this is not just people meeting and talking about how to make the world better. Can you explain how the darkness came upon your family and if there's ever anything that happened at the Freemasonic lodges?
So yes, like my brother, basically me and all my siblings went through some type of abuse whenever we were around him. And when we even told my mom about this, she was very mad because out of just trying to be a good co-parent, she allowed us to go and visit and be with him. But I had been molested while I was with him, and it was by another gentleman that at the time my dad, did kind of like hang out with, and I guess he was helping because he didn't have anywhere to stay. Same with one of my siblings, my older brother. He even mentioned that when he went on the trip to Miami and he was at some place that almost looked like a lodge, kind of even like that he said on the outside it almost looked like a church where if you know these places they do come across as churches sometimes, but it was definitely a lodge because he said it was just all men there, and that when when my dad left into another room to just go and have a meeting, he was also molested by one of the men that were in that lodge. And then again, my other brother, he never really talked about it, but I don't know if something like that happened to him. But my sister, she also mentioned that again, the same lines. When she was visiting my dad, and again was around the certain gentlemen that would come and meet with him to talk about these things, like that also happened to her. And so this is like now when we're young, but then I also say like darkness just swept over the whole family because then now me and my siblings all just started having issues with like depression and suicide and alcoholism and drugs. And, people just described us all as just being crazy, because we would in one moment be one way and then in the other moment just completely change, and then seeing my dad that way too. Like, there was never any time where he just looked like this upstanding leader that was talking about changing the world and doing amazing things. No, he was always drinking a lot and he was always shifting in who he was. And there would even be times where he didn't even recognize us because obviously, like, he's bringing us into places that's dangerous and not thinking of anything of it, because he's not in his right mind. And so that's what that I would say definitely was a part of the darkness that was happening.
Yeah. Well, I like to say that you judge a tree by its fruit. And when it comes to your story, the involvement of your dad with witchcraft and Freemasonry coincided with the darkness that the entire family felt.